April?
October.
Oh, okay. I was like, didn't say which 9th through 11th.
Yeah, totally. In a few days, I'm gonna buy a plane ticket.
Well, that's why I was like, you said the
leave.
9th as if it was like this month. I'm like, wait, which month?
No.
Okay.
Instead, we're talking about this podcast. So, hi everyone, welcome to the Semi-Bookish podcast.
Hey, hello, howdy.
We're doing. I don't know if you've noticed, but we're uploading these on different days now because we've changed our recording schedule.
Hooray.
Which
Yeah.
you may not notice, but that's
You
okay.
might not notice because I might end up uploading this right after we record it, but that's a whole entire other thing. What is entertaining us this week? I can go first if we want.
Yes,
I
sure.
never
Go first. That's true. Yeah, go first.
So, book-wise, I will say that I finished the book for the Book Dragons Book Club, which was Field of Burn.
Yeah.
The Andrew Schaefer one, Field of Burn.
Was that? You were
It's
enjoying it.
funny. It's cute. Yeah. It's very kind of like, if you read this, so for those who don't know, it's Field of Burn by Andrew Schaefer. It's a cozy mystery that's based off of Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. And the idea behind the entire story is you are following Crash, who is the main character who works as an intern for Bernie during his 2024 campaign. And you are going with him to Vermont. Crash is going with him to Vermont because Crash is originally from Vermont, like from a little town, like a little bit away from Burlington. And so he decides, after talking to Crash about it, to go to their town, and they accidentally get caught up in this murder mystery where it has to do with corrupt local government, maple syrup corporations. There is
no one ever thinks about them.
No, there's a lake monster and weed.
I see.
The weed is about the only thing I expected from this novel. The rest of it, I'm like, what?
So...
What? Why is there a lake monster?
So, spoilers ahead. If you don't want to, skip ahead maybe like a minute or two for me to start talking about the other things that are entertaining me. But the idea behind it is there's this guy who owns a big maple corporation. So they call it Big Maple. And it's, I guess it's like a play on like Big Pharma.
Mm. That's funny.
So this guy's like buying up all the like woods around the area, like just outside of town, so he doesn't have to deal with the local politics of making his business in town. And so everyone is turning around quite literally and going like, what the heck, what the heck, what the heck. They think it's him because the guy who died is like a banker, so they think the big corporation guy got done dirty by the banker. And
sure.
No, just kidding. He's buying up all the land because there's a city ordinance or local law, local ordinance, where they can't grow their own weed. And so he's buying up all this land outside of town for his maple syrup stuff so he can also grow a weed farm.
Sure.
And the only way the main character figures this out is because I think it's her mom, but Crash's mom, because they're staying at a bed and breakfast, which actually turns out to be Crash's childhood home. It's like a whole entire thing.
Okay.
And Crash's mom, to distract Bernie for like 5 minutes because Crash is too busy discovering the body outside in the lake, hands Bernie a cozy mystery, and it's a weed bakery themed mystery.
So it's a cozy mystery within a cozy mystery?
Yes. So the idea behind
Cozy mystery inception.
And the only way that Crash figures out this whole entire subplot of what this guy is doing is he says something that reminds Crash of something that they read on the back of the book. Like a specific
Sure.
phrase or term, and it's referenced also in the Weed Bakery Cozy Mystery book, and that's how Crash figures out that it wasn't him and what he's actually trying to do. And I was just like, this is actually the funniest thing I've ever seen. But if you read this a decade later, a lot of the terms are kind of dated in terms of current stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's so funny because everything that Bernie says, and I think the author did this on purpose, everything he says mimics exactly something that he would say on the trail. at a speech. There's quite literally a moment where he's ranting about minimum living wages to somebody, and then Big Maple, like, he's like going on about the corporations, and he's ranting to somebody who's working in a food truck. Like, they're like, sir, here's your taco. And it's like, okay, but here's all this stuff about corporations. And it sounds exactly like he's making, like, an actual speech to, like, thousands of people, but in actuality, it's just this high schooler working for minimum wage inside of this food truck.
That's funny.
And it's so funny. The plot twist at the end is actually really interesting about who actually does the murder. I won't spoil that part, but I will say it's cute and it's fun to read when, like, everything in the world kind of sucks and you just need something that's kind of quirky and fun to read for a minute. Would 10 out of 10 recommend, it's on Libby, the audiobook edition, because the lady who reads it tries to give her best Bernie impression, and most of the time it works out really well, but half of the time it doesn't because she sounds way too Brooklyn, and it's so funny. But it works well for her. But I would recommend it because she's pretty good at it. That's my hope. And then what else is entertaining me? I'm playing Legend of Mana again. I'm trying to replay it like every year.
Sure.
YOLO. And so I've made it to... There's a specific way that you can do quests. So, alright, I have to context this because I'm going to do a Let's Play of this eventually, and it's kind of complicated to start with, but I'm not going to try to overcomplicate it right now.
Sure.
So the idea behind it is there was this giant war, and there's a big giant mana tree, and it's a big source of power and love for a lot of people. And in a last-ditch effort, so that way the mana tree doesn't become corrupted, the mana goddess turns around and turns every single place into artifacts and, like, splits them up. So that way, like, you can't... None of these things can interact with each other. The world's not going to end, because there's, like, a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
You have, your mailbox, your house, is your artifact, and it's landed in a random location. You get to actually pick the location, but that's besides the point.
Fun.
And, you get artifacts by doing certain quests. And when you open up those artifacts and you place them down to open new places, it kind of acts like a time capsule, and whatever was happening in that space during that mana war ages ago, who knows how long it is because they don't really specify,
Right.
It starts that quest line. And you can place these artifacts in any way so that you wish. You can even pick your own map to decide where it's going to be.
Yeah.
However, if you want to go through every single quest line and do every single quest, there's a specific map and a specific layout that you have to follow.
Okay, sure.
So I'm doing that map because I like doing all of the quests. However, to get to the final quest of the game, there are 3 overarching quest lines that you can finish. You only have to complete one of them to actually get to the end of the game.
I see.
But that's going to be different every single time you do it, depending on what artifacts you get as you're going through the game when you're playing at any random willy-nilly map and placing them down willy-nilly. That then will tell you which one you're going to get. There is a fairy quest arc, which is the one that I just finished, where there's this lady and this demon guy, and they're kind of in love with each other, but he's succumbing to, like, his demon nature and just kind of wants to destroy the world. So he kind of cons the love of his life into giving her her elemental power. So that way he can become stronger as a demon, and it makes her, who's only 26, turn into a wrinkly old grandma because she's lost all of her magical power at this point because she's supposed to be a high priestess for this temple. And there's 2 other friends who are involved. One guy's like a paladin, holy warrior, who really thinks in black and white, but in actuality what he really thinks is, like, if I have to save the world at the sake of, like, getting rid of all of my friends because they are doing horrible things, I will, even if it makes me sad at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then the other friend is just like, why can't we all just get along? Like, she wants to try to save everybody, and it's not going to work out in that way at all. Mm-hmm. It's a very long doozy of a quest line, and honestly the one that pisses me off the most, but it's fine. But it's also the first and easiest quest line to attain. There's also another quest line where you can follow this guy who is a dragoon, so he is a knight to a dragon. He's down in the underworld and he's stuck down there, and the only way he can get out is if you find 3 mana crystals, which are being protected by 3 different dragons. And so you have to go get rid of all 3 of those dragons to get the mana crystals. But it turns out, in actuality, once you hit, like, a certain point, that the dragoon that you're following is being deceived by the dragon who's trying to come back to the world so he can take it over and destroy everything. They're like, so there's a theme here of destroying the world. Then there's a third quest line, which is kind of like the most complicated of this whole entire group, where there's a race of people who have jewels that are attached to them, like somewhere on their body. It could be anywhere. Sometimes it's on their chest, sometimes it's here, sometimes it's anywhere.
Yeah.
And the idea behind it is they used to be really, really cool healers, but they were kind of persecuted and tracked down and kind of like coveted because their tears can heal people. And to protect themselves, they stopped learning how to cry. So that their tears would stop healing people because they were being kind of like taken into a slavery kind of like aspect of things. And so you have your guardians and your protectors, and the guardians are the ones who have the ability to cry, and the protectors are the ones who don't. There is this one jewel character who is like super sick, and she's like the top of everything, and her protector has been kind of duped by this jewel beast other being who said that if she goes and gets rid of all of the different Jumi, which is what they're called, all of the different ones, and she takes all of their jewels and gives it to the jewel beast, that will save her guardian. And so she's trying to do that, and it doesn't go very well. But if you complete one of those, you can get the Sword of Mana and create the Tree of Mana and beat the whole entire game. Which, if you had no idea what you were doing and it's the first time you've ever played it, you have absolutely no idea what you're getting into, and you accidentally end the entire game. But there's 67 quests that you can go through, and they're all quite entertaining to me. So, that's what I'm getting into.
Nice.
Grant.
Fun.
Yay! Well, I kind of made up for not watching really any movie the past few weeks, and I went through quite a few. First off, me and Tony saw the new Mario movie.
Yeah!
Which I enjoyed.
I really liked it.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah. Fun.
If you've played any Nintendo game in the past, I don't know, 30, 40 years, you're going to see something referenced or
right, because Super Mario Brothers, the original game, came out in 1986. Which is
at the beginning of something like that.
Yeah, so
but at the beginning of the movie, they had like a Nintendo 40.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's 40th anniversary.
Yeah. No, that was fun. I enjoyed it. I need to go back and watch the first one.
It's really good. Yeah.
There's a surprising lack of Donkey Kong in this one, which I...
Yes, which you cannot say about the first one.
Yeah,
but
that's what I hear.
They made up for it with a certain Foxy Starfighter character who I just adore.
Star Fox is in it!
And among many other characters.
So great. He just... Yeah, they do so well with him. Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. Let's see. Where do I start? So I kind of completed 2 loose art house trilogies that I've been working on.
Oh.
I briefly not briefly, but I did mention that I watched Marketa Lazarova and Valley of the Bees.
Oh, yeah.
They're part of kind of a shared, like a thematically linked historical kind of trilogy by this director whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce.
The Swedish
František Veselý. I think he's Czechoslovakian. Yes.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Yep. So The Devil's Trap. It's the last one I saw, but it's actually the first one chronologically.
Like in time, yeah, chronologically timeline, yeah.
Yep. Well, it was made. It was released first.
Released first, got it. Okay.
Yep. I think it does. It takes place more recent, compared to the other two. This one's like 1700s, I want to say. 1700s, maybe early 1800s. But similar to the other two, it deals with the clash between religion and technology and kind of just modernization and stuff. This one kind of focuses on a small town that's going through a drought, and there's like this one mill that they kind of have a source of water and nobody really knows where it's coming from. So some people hold suspicions of them. Some people kind of look to them as, just kind of benevolent, a benevolent family of, whatever. And then this priest gets sent to town. At first he seems, pretty understanding and everything, but it quickly becomes apparent that he's kind of leading an inquisition. And,
like you do.
Suspicions raise, things get complicated. It doesn't turn out exactly how you'd think with the setup. I'll say that without spoiling it, but very good. It's probably my least favorite out of the three. I think he kind of refined, his skills as he went on.
Sure. And
they became more ambitious and whatnot. But I will say visually it's very striking. There's a few long tracking shots towards. It's repeated a few times. Like you fly towards his house. I'd be very surprised. It would be a big coincidence if Sam Raimi, the director of Evil Dead, didn't see this movie, because it's very similar to some shots in the first and second one, where they're in the cabin and the camera you're like from the perspective of the demon or the ghost or whatever, and it shoots towards the house and everything. It's very similar to that.
Oh, cool.
But so that was kind of, I imagine it was innovative for the time, but who knows. The other trilogy, it's directed by Michelangelo Antonioni. He's probably most well known for Blow Up, which is one of his few English language movies. It's about a photographer who kind of accidentally captures a murder. I haven't seen it myself, but it's supposedly very good. So the first one of this trilogy that I saw was I believe the translation is The Adventure, which I really enjoyed. I didn't love it. I can see why it was influential. It definitely brought a less structured, more meandering, thing to the burgeoning art house scene.
Yeah.
I understand why people like it so much.
Yeah.
But the second one in the trilogy that I saw is called The Night, and I really loved that one. It takes place, as the title would suggest, over one kind of day and night. It kind of follows these two, upper class, this married couple. The guy's a writer. Their marriage is kind of falling apart. And similar to The Adventure, it's very meandering, but I feel it fits this even more because it definitely explores this one and the one that came after this, The Eclipse. It explores the ennui of modern life and just the alienation that these people feel. And the cinematography really focuses on the abstract forms of the city and everything, and it's kind of the characters are kind of dwarfed by everything, and they're kind of lost in this labyrinth of increasing mechanization and everything as they're trying to connect in a human way, and it doesn't quite work out. But great movie. The one that came after it, The Eclipse, which I watched 2 nights ago, I want to say, almost as good. The last 7 minutes kind of make the whole thing worth it. I'll say that it's devoid of any dialogue or anything, and it kind of, in its own way, it kind of summarizes everything that came before in a more abstract way. I'll leave it at that because it is a very kind of stunning moment. Very interesting. What else did I watch? So, probably my favorite one that I watched recently. It's called the Saragossa Manuscript.
I've heard of that.
It's based on a book that came out in like the 1800s, pretty loosely from what I understand.
Okay, yeah.
But this is definitely a labyrinth of a movie. It's like it's a story about stories. It's a story within a story within a story. This like for instance, it starts out. I believe it takes place in Spain, but this Belgian officer, there's like a war between. I don't know the historical situation entirely, but they find like this old book, and then this guy that's with them realizes that it's talking about his grandfather. Then so you go to see the grandfather's story, and it just kind of keeps adding layer upon layer, and as these characters are trying to figure out what's going on, and it weaves in mysticism and magic, some definite like surrealism, surrealist tendencies. It's 3 hours long, so it's definitely a commitment.
Yeah,
but it's very much worth it. Beautiful to look at. It's very funny too.
Yeah,
it's kind of a satire in a lot of ways. And I think everybody who watches it would probably get a different thing out of it. There's just so much packed within. Excuse me. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I'll have to delve into it again sometime.
Yeah.
There was a really useful, at least on the DVD copy that I got through Mel, there was a pretty useful introduction and then critical assessment of it from this film scholar, and that added some context and just kind of her interpretations of everything, and it deepened the experience. So I would definitely recommend that. So seek it out if you like weird but enveloping things. Whatever.
Weird but engrossing.
Weird but engrossing. Yes, that's a good way to put it, Tony. Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
Wait a minute.
Tony hasn't even gone on
I'm
yet.
so sorry, Tony. It's your turn.
Tony, what's in your dream?
Please tell us.
Oh, sorry. I'm shuffling through so many things in my brain. So I read a book recently that I enjoyed. It's a manga. It's very... Okay, well... I docked it 0.5 stars. I gave it a 4.5 stars, and I only docked it for a half a star because it describes itself. Now, mind you, it is published by Tokyo Pop, so I suppose it is a manga in name, in the sense that Tokyo Pop is the one that published it. But it's not even a manga in format because it doesn't read in the right direction. To be a manga, which is from right to left. It reads from left to right, which is how we always do it in our, in the English, American, whatever. So that annoyed me initially, but I was like, don't be too picky. Read the story, loved the story, but it also is self-described as a boys' love manga or interpretation of the Captain Laserhawk series, the animated series, which is great. So this is a manga edition that takes place in between, I think they said episodes 4 and 5. So it's, if you've seen the animated series, you would know that's a significant point in the story. And this sort of fits right in there. Really beautifully done. Wonderful story. Wonderful graphic novel. But a manga it ain't, and a boys' love it ain't. Because listen, people, if you're going to describe yourself as a boys' love manga, there needs to be at least one sex scene where people are actually naked. Because that's what boys' love is. Like, you don't get to not have that. Boys' love isn't just, well, it's about boys falling in love. No, that's not boys' love. Boys' love is two men, whether they're in love or not, are naked at some point. And you see that. That's the whole point. Don't get me started. Anyway, the point is I only docked it 0.5 stars because of that, because the rest of it was wonderful. It was great. But it was really annoying because it's like I'm looking, part of the... It's like we're going to talk about this when we talk about expectations in a moment. But, you say that, and I, as a reader, it's like when someone says it's an erotica, but the only sex scenes there are off the page, and you're like, that's not erotica. I was promised on the page. That's kind of my gripe. all of that aside, the story is really good. And, if you're a Captain Laserhawk person, then you should read this book. You probably already have if you've seen the anime and you like, or animated series and you like it as much as I did. Anyway, all that aside, I just started rereading The Sorcerer of the Wild Deeps by Kaya Shanti Wilson, which I only brought in here because I was afraid I was going to forget mentioning it. I love this book. I have loved it ever since I first read it. I made a reread, an annual reread at one point of this. Let me see, it first came out in 2015. Wow, it's been that long? Oh, I cannot believe this book has been in my life for almost as long as I've been at this library. That's astonishing and wonderful. It's a great book. I've read it many times. It's a novella. It's about a sorcerer, nominally. His name is spelled Demane, and every time I read it, I pronounce it differently. I think in the audiobook they pronounce it Demone. I pronounce it Demane this time because I like... There's a hip-hop sensibility in here because the world that he sets it in, he calls it an African America, which is basically his sort of interpretation of if African Americans had their own continent that we ruled or that we lived in, because we're not from Africa anymore. We haven't been for a very long time. But we're also not really Americans because that comes with all kinds of crap that not all of us, but that many of us, myself included, do not subscribe to. So being an American is kind of crappy. And that was before the current autocracy we're living under. But he envisions like a sort of African America that has its own mythology, its own fantastical roots, its own, all those kinds of things. And he sort of mixes in, just in the language alone, he mixes in things that you might hear at a cookout, in like a family cookout, or like just phrases that you may hear at a family cookout, or something that your uncles might say, or your cousins, or that kind of sensibility is in there. I mean, listen, he somehow manages to use the rap version of the N-word in a fantasy novel that has straight up Dungeons and Dragons components, where you're like, sir, you played Dungeons and Dragons, but also... Did I just read that word in this book? I'm here, and it's published by Tor.com, the same publishers of The Wheel of Time and Brandon Sanderson. So you're just like slack-jawed, like, what editor? Who bought this book? It's great. It's wonderful stuff. So I'm reading that right now, and I will follow it up with his follow-up novella, A Taste of Honey. But anyway, yeah, Sorcerer of the Wild Deeps, very good. Everyone should read it. It's fantastic and wonderful. Game-wise, actually, I am blowing through Devil May Cry 5, which is very easy to do because they're literally like, how can we make this the most fun Devil May Cry yet? Well, people like killing demons in these games. Let's give them every excuse to kill demons. And so they just do power-up after power-up. It's so easy. I'm also playing in the easiest, level. It might get more difficult the higher up you go, probably, but I don't care. I like to just run around and kill demons. That's the whole point of the game. The story is not a story. It's stupid because it's not supposed to be a story. It's, it's like they didn't even try. They were just like, all right, sure, we'll like hang a story frame around here somewhere, and
it's like pornography. You need the barest story possible to justify what everybody's here for.
Whatever it is there for. Exactly. It's great. It's a great game. You get to play as three different characters so far anyway. They're wonderful. What's his name? V is my favorite of the characters, which, by the way, again, you know who V is. If you've ever played any of the other Devil May Cry games, or if you're in any way familiar with the Devil May Cry universe, you're like, yeah, V.
Is it Virgil or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I've never played him,
but it is Virgil, but it's not Virgil. Like, it's not even a secret. Like, it's You're just like, all right, guys, come on. Like I said, they're not trying. They just wanted to give you a new character. So they give you a new character, and it's great. And Nero gets a cool upgrade, even though he looks like a lost Abercrombie & Fitch model. It's a little weird. And I don't like the van girl, that's what I'm calling her, the new female character who basically her job is to show up in a van and sell you upgrades. Mm-hmm. She has a really annoying accent, and she's stupid, and she flirts with Nero even though Nero has a girlfriend that she tells him all the time, hey, stop looking at women because you have a girlfriend, and you're just like, girl, really? It's weird. I don't like her. But she's not even a character. She's not really a character. She's just there for straight men, I guess, or lesbian women. So it's fine. No big deal. Love the game. It's fun. I would like to start Cyberpunk soon. Especially since I now know that it is the invention of a black man, and his company, which he founded, which also has a Witcher RPG, tabletop RPG as well. So I'm like, I'm here for all of this. I mean, I don't want to do a Witcher tabletop RPG, but it's there, and he did it, and I'm just so proud. So, get into Cyberpunk, the game, because I already love the series. So that's what it's just lots of, speculative fiction from me, big surprise. Oh yeah, the other thing I'm being entertained by right now, actually, I should mention this. I am watching Bleach right now. Lots of it on a break from Attack on Titan, because I have to, if I watch season 4 of Attack on Titan, I'm just going to watch it all the way to the end, because I know the final stuff is connected to it. And I need a break, because Attack on Titan hurts my brain. It's wonderful, it's amazing, but oof, it's rough. So I'm watching Bleach, and Bleach is fun. It's probably the dumbest anime, maybe not the dumbest, it's probably the dumbest way to do one of the coolest concepts ever, but I'm enjoying it because it's a cool concept. It's great, What more can you ask for?
Exactly.
All right. Expectations of readers? Things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So this is Tony's idea.
Okay, so I'll introduce.
This is Tony's idea.
I'm literally So I was curious because I listen to other people's podcasts because, I'm a podcast listener. I think we all are at some point. Anyway, maybe not all of us.
Fair.
And an interesting sort of subject got brought up, but I was not satisfied with how they talked about it because I just wasn't satisfied. And I thought this would be a really cool topic I don't think we've talked about. Just reader expectations. And what I mean by that is, like, you as a reader, whether you're the kind of reader that goes to bookstores just to browse, because we've all done that, right? Like, I found Song of Achilles on a bookshelf at the library, on the new shelf when it was brand new, not this library, but the first library I ever worked at. Found it in the new section, took one look at the spine. I didn't even pull the book off the shelf, but I took one look at the spine and I said, this looks gay. And then I pulled it off to read the cover copy, and I was like, oh, so right, so gay. I don't know why I thought that, and I don't know what I would have felt if I found out that it wasn't.
Well, quite often you can judge a book by its cover or its spine. So.
And there's nothing particularly gay about the original cover either. It's very Greek. It's about Greek people because it's Achilles and whatever. But it just, anyway, all of that is to say that we are people who, as readers, we, that saying, don't judge a book by its cover, right? Well, it's kind of crazy to say that, but we judge books all the time before we get to them, right? Based on many, many different criteria. So I was just curious. I guess I'll ask the first question. What is a criteria on which you base your willingness to pick up a book and actually start reading it? And it can be that's a complicated question. You can answer it in a complicated or simple way, but go.
I guess for me, I desire novelty. So I always look for stuff that's either doing something new or putting a new spin on something else.
Sure.
I think there are far too many books in existence, and there's a finite number that are of value. So I tend to seek those out. That are at least valuable to me by my metrics. Yeah.
Would you say the same is true of fiction and nonfiction?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it obviously has to fit into my stuff I'm interested in reading about. So
sure. Yeah.
Thematically or otherwise.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Aaron,
I want to throw a book out the window whenever I read it. So I need to, when I'm reading the back or I look at the cover, I want the expectation of, like, oh, this is going to make my heart hurt. Great, let's read it. And that's kind of what I go off of.
Sure.
Unless it's something like, obviously, like the Feel the Burn or anything like that. It's
where you're, like, surprised by what
where you're just, like, reading. I read the back of it and I go, oh, this would be hilarious. I'm going to die laughing at this. Great, let's read it.
Yeah.
Or, like, if it's nonfiction, I go, ooh, this is an interesting topic. Like, it has to pull me.
Yeah.
And I never really go in fully with, like, the most insane amounts of expectations. My only hope in whenever I read a book is it's not in first person. And if it is in first person, I need it to be done well. That's it.
It's not my go-to either.
No, I can't.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's different.
Yeah.
Because, and I think I got this from reading Twilight. So, like, just bear with me for a minute. And I was part of, like, the Twilight haters when it first came out, just because I was like, oh my god, what the heck am I reading?
You were also 12.
I was also like 13 going in this.
Yeah.
And I was reading first person, and I'm just going, because to me, like, at the time when I was 13, obviously now that I've read it as an adult, I have a better understanding and I understand it more. But reading it at 13, I wasn't too young for it, but I was going, it feels like you're trying to not give her a personality so I can kind of foist my own personality in there.
Sure, which is definitely
and make it kind of self-insert. And certain first-person point of view books still do that.
Yeah. And
I can tell, like, within the first, like, 5 pages if you're going to go that route, and if you do, I don't want to read it. Because I want to find, like, I can, if I want to read self-insert, I'm just going to read fan fiction of stuff that I already like as ex-reader. Like, that's it. Like, that's easy enough, and that's free. But if I'm going to read a book that somebody published in its self-insert fanfic, I'm like, there's different.
Okay.
It's a different, I have a stronger expectation of what a published author should be writing.
That's interesting.
Does that make sense?
No, I like that. That's why I wanted to talk about this, because I feel like that's something a lot of people... I think it's something a lot of people maybe used to share that's changing a lot. Like, I don't know that people... I think a lot of readers that I know of who have been reading a long time maybe also once had that expectation, but now... because of the times we live in, because of how much reading there is to do, because of how many books there are. There are a lot of people who are reading... I don't want to say they're lowering their expectations. Maybe they are, but I think their parameters are changing. They're like, well, I don't have to be as picky because I get to read more books, and
the thing,
cool.
I don't mind doing that, but if I do, I'm going to be going through a lens of, all right, at this point... I think you should have written this a little bit better.
Sure.
Let me now analyze this and see, like, maybe what it is. If it's something that's me that's the problem, or if it's something that's them that's the problem.
Yeah.
So, for example, sorry, SJM girlies, you can come at me. I don't care.
I was just about to bring her up, actually.
I read, Court of Thorns and Roses when I was 10 pages in, and I just went, no. And then I put it down.
First person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I also read, Throne of Glass, and it's also in first person a little bit. No,
Throne of Glass is third person. Which actually, I think she's...
I started that one,
her in third person.
I went, this is Wattpad fanfiction, and I put it down.
That's funny, because it predates Wattpad.
I know it does, but I still read this through. It's like Wattpad fanfiction. I shut it and I put it down and moved it away.
I think what interests me, you brought up Sarah J. Maas, and I'm interested in people's reactions to her more than I'm interested in... I do want to start Crescent City just to see if I like it, because there's a concept in there that I'm interested in. I don't know if I'll like it, but I find people's reactions... to her really strange. Like, people on Goodreads will say things like, oh, another Sarah J. Maas where she just wants to go around beating up demons. And I'm like, is there something wrong with that? Like,
no. So for me, it's like, I don't even care. Like, I don't care if you like Sarah J. Maas. I don't care if you like those books. I honestly just could care less. It's just not my cup of tea in terms of stuff that I like in fantasy.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I ascribe to the one and only fandom rule that exists that people do not seem to be following at this moment, which is don't read. If I start reading it and I'm like, this is not for me,
well, everybody has to have a negative opinion about something on the internet.
I just ignore it, and I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. And then I just go, okay, this is not what I expected. it's not my expectation, and I move on.
Right.
Like, I like my Diana Wynne Jones, like, snarky female characters, but, like, Sophie's not, like, soft. She's soft, but she's not, like, soft in a way where she feels like a damsel.
I don't know if I would call Sophie soft at all.
No, but, like, she's soft in the way that she's not, like... She's not like that one character who will go out with the sword and just, like, start beating everybody up. Like,
no, she's not that.
She's still hardcore. We love Sophie. But, like, she's not soft in the way that, like, you would see a typical, like...
She's not what Ursula Le Guin described as... And I'm using the word "but" instead of the A word here because that's what she used. She used the A word. But she once said that she's tired of the kick-butt hero woman in science fiction.
Yep.
And this was like 2014, where every, particularly YA, but a lot even this was spilling over into adult, where anytime you had a female main character, she had to look like Katniss on the cover, even though the book was set in like medieval London. And you're like, why does she look like Katniss Everdeen? Because these things happen. This is a big part of...
And they sell.
And they sell, yeah. They all had braids, the whole thing. It was ridiculous, right? But on the flip side of that, because I think what's interesting about, in terms of reader expectation in a situation like that, where you have The Hunger Games, for example, blows up and becomes this megawatt thing, to where... there's a whole generation of readers who think that that's what science fiction is. Like, that it begins and ends with The Hunger Games. And if it doesn't read like The Hunger Games, then it's not science fiction. And it's like, wow, no. That's not how genres work. But it's just, I am very fascinated by how we as readers ascribe a certain kind of definitional approach. Like, when I went to read Legends and Lattes, because I was interested in just what is cozy fantasy, what does it mean, how does it feel when you read it, how do you tell a story in a fantasy landscape where nothing happens, is kind of what I wanted to know. And Legends and Lattes was the big one that everybody kept talking about. There were several people reading it when I thought, oh, I'll try this. I got 5 chapters in, and I was like, yeah, okay. It's not for me. I understand what people enjoy about it, and I think reading as much as I could get through gave me that understanding. I thought, oh, okay, this isn't poorly written. This isn't bad stuff. He's a competent writer. He's new, but, there are plenty of people that I read debut fiction from that I'm like, you're a little green, but that's okay. It wasn't something that I felt was compelling enough for me to finish at that time. But that doesn't mean I won't go back and read it, because, I think I often will bounce off of books that I'm like, oh, I wanted that to be better, or I wanted it to start differently. Like, Dune is another example of a book that I'm like, well, I will get back to Dune at some point, but I think my expectations of Dune weren't calculated towards Dune. Does that make sense? Like what Dune is. Like, I think when you're... This is just a theory of mine. When you are hearing about something over and over and over again, or you're listening to other people's expectations of it, like any popular book that many people have read and they tell you what they think of it, that is in your consciousness when you sit down to read the book, whether you want it to be or not. And it can be very uphill to erase that and just pay attention with what's on the page. And I make an exercise of doing that, but it's one of the reasons that I don't typically like to read books when they are very popular, like when they're in their spotlight, because it's harder to get rid of that. Like, I'm slowly reading Game of Thrones right now, but one of the things that I love about reading it right now is that nobody else is reading it. No, everyone's done with Westeros. They're like, yeah, whatever. We've made our opinions about that, even people who never read it, right? I am coming to it as if it was new all over again. I'm like, oh, but this is so... why did no one talk... I mean, everybody did. But I'm like, this is so good. And I'm able to talk about what I appreciate in the book, what I think makes it significant. And in a lot of ways, I think that the way in which people talked about Game of Thrones, the readers who got to it because of the show, didn't really know what they were talking about, because a lot of them weren't fantasy readers, or even the ones that were just like, wait, where's the magic? They weren't paying attention to the things that really make this novel, not just this fantasy novel, but this novel work. And the fact that there are generation, it's still a generation of people who've come after that book who read it and took away the wrong lessons from it. Like, they're like, ooh, we can kill our characters. Ooh, we can get our characters drunk. Ooh, we can show brothels. And you're like, that's the lesson you took from... Have you read Game of Thrones? Like, it makes me want to bludgeon people with my illustrated edition of Game of Thrones. Like, guys, he's actually a very good writer. Like, his sentences sing and dance in your mind. And nobody talks about the fact that George R.R. Martin can write sentences better than most people. Nobody talks about that. About how his sentences are on par with Tolkien, but even better because Tolkien talks too much.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
mean? No, I get it.
It just even like just those expectations of that you carry into a book because it's got a big following,
hype,
you know,
the hype train. If it lives up to the hype or not, depending on how people are talking to you.
Yeah.
And to pivot from there into other parts that are library related.
Yeah.
Like. So when somebody's telling you about, like, let's say a Sarah J. Maas book or a George R.R. Martin or a Ursula K. Le Guin or Sherry Le Pen, list goes on.
All the people.
All the people.
Yeah.
When somebody's, like, talking to you about it, they're giving you, like, hype based on how they like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, like, you might have a slightly different, like, expectation based on that because of how they're hyping it up so much.
Yeah.
That's a form of reader's advisory, which is something that we do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also offer things like fantastic fiction exists, where you can go on and you can look at every single thing that like somebody has written in their entire career.
I found many books through fantastic fiction.
But you scroll down to the bottom, and on occasion there are just like a little hodgepodge of authors who are
similar works or
so
authors.
They're giving you reader's advisory like we would.
Yeah.
Or if you use Melcat, which is like one of our free services if you live in the state, like they have a thing called Novelist, which does the exact same thing, but it's slightly different because they'll give you a printable like list of the authors or books that are readalikes that are similar to the book you just talked about.
Yeah.
And so then based on those like websites and stuff, or like if we give a suggestion, reader is thinking, okay, so you're suggesting to me that like Sherry LaPena is really close in nature in how she writes to James Patterson if I just read all the James Patterson books and I'm looking for somebody new.
Yeah.
Right? And so now you're going into Sherry
Not that James Patterson readers need to ever look for anybody new because he publishes 12 books a year.
He writes more than that.
Yeah, it's absurd.
I mean, he's not the one even writing them. He's just slapping his name on it. That's a different issue.
I mean, I don't think Viola Davis wrote a single word of the book they have out together, but let's not go there. Who knows? Maybe she's...
But, like, you're getting, like, alright, so, like, you're in fantastic fiction, and you're reading James Patterson, you're going through the list, you've reached the bottom of the page, and you're going, oh, there's all these authors, and you click on Sherry LaPena, or Tracy Clark, or Karen Robarts. The list goes on, guys.
Oh, yeah.
And so you click on one of those authors, and now you're going to go through their list, right?
Yeah.
And now you have this expectation because it showed down in the readalikes, because it says, author, if you like this, you might like this.
Yeah.
You have an expectation as a reader that author that you are now getting into is going to be similar, either in their writing style, in the content of the book itself, in the vibe that it gives off, in how you feel as you're reading it. It's going to be similar, if not as the same as that James Patterson book you were just reading.
Well, and this is one of the things that leads to, like, I always like to separate, just personally, but also whenever I get into pitched battle with people over genre, because genre has become a dirty word and it makes me spit fire like a dragon whenever people say things like, I'm going to try and say this without spitting fire like a dragon. People say things like, genre is just a marketing term.
I've said that many times.
Yes, I know. No, it's literally not. Genre existed before market existed, okay? Just to be clear. Sorry, there's my thing. But I think the two have merged over time because market sensibility... Because marketers use the whole marketing... You know, when you think about mass marketing anything,
when you walk into a Barnes & Noble and you're walking around the building, they separate all the books out by genre. There's also an issue with separating all of them out by genre.
Because what do you do with, like, it becomes complicated because, you know, there are people that, like, okay, you could put Tolkien in fantasy, but you could also put him in classics. You could put Edgar Allan Poe in horror, but you could also put him in classics. I mean, like where do you put these people? It gets more and more complicated.
That's the cataloger issue every single time.
Yeah,
so I catalog books on the daily. For everybody who doesn't know, I catalog every single adult book or DVD that comes into this library.
Yeah.
DVDs are the worst. I'm going to just say that right now.
Yeah.
Because, like, what do you mean I'm doing this DVD, and it's a black comedy, but there are horror elements in it? I'm talking about, like, Poor Things or something like that.
Yeah.
And they market it as a black comedy, like a dark comedy, right?
Yeah.
But there are horror elements in there. So...
Well, that's what the word black is supposed to tell
you.
But
like when you're cataloging it for these out here.
Exactly.
For those who aren't in this library all the time, we separate all of our DVDs by genre. Mm-hmm. So now when you have a black comedy, you have a different issue.
Right, because it's
do you put that into comedy specifically, or do you put it into horror?
And that's the question of expectation. Like, where do your patrons expect something like this to go?
Or depending on what's in the movie itself, is it just a little bit of a smidge too much of horror for it to sit in comedy? Because somebody's going to grab it having the expectation of it being a comedy.
Right.
And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this character is peeling off their skin and it's supposed to be funny, but it's really not because I'm terrified.
Yeah. And I think those,
Oh, I was going to say, with the specific example of Poor Things, I would personally have put that in fantasy. But it's difficult.
You know what
it's difficult.
I mean?
But that's the great thing about it, is that's what I love about genre as opposed to marketing. Because, okay, when you look at marketing sensibilities around something, you see, especially if you look from, I would say, Anne Rice forward. You could actually say Stephen King forward. Let's do that. That's a better place. No! I'm going a little further back. All right. So this, in American literature in particular, now other nationalities may vary, but in the American literary marketplace, which, oh God, that makes me want to throw up. But in American literature, particularly fiction, you do not start to see in any major kind of forceful way what we now live under the shadow of all the time, which is bookstore marketing. Because bookstores don't become a big deal until the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and really the 60s and 70s, because there's just giant pushes for, in the public cultural space, for literacy. Mm-hmm. They want, in the 50s you have Isaac Asimov writing all of these science texts, like over 300 science textbooks for young people, because he's like, kids need to know their science because we need to get to the moon. So we get to the moon in the 60s and it's like, see, this happened because of science.
People do this again blah, blah, blah. So we can go to Mars.
Can we do this again just to have an educated society? It'd be great. But like the whole point is that those decades, there's a lot of crap going on in those decades politically, but one of the things that's going on culturally is the culture is turning towards books and saying, this is where we educate, this is where we learn, this is how we develop, right? Also, the rise of television is happening, but whatever. So then, post Lord of the Rings, you start seeing immediately publishers seizing onto certain things, and one of the first things that they seize onto is, hey, we can make a market out of fantasy, which is where Terry Brooks comes from. And he's not the only one. But you see the post-Tolkien decades begin there in the early 70s, because very intentionally publishers were like, hey, Tolkien just broke open a door. Now it's time for us to keep the door open, so that as many readers as possible can come to this thing that we fell in love with The Lord of the Rings, and also make a good bundle as well. And so you see houses being developed in the publishers that are specifically houses for fantasy. You start seeing science fiction being taken a little bit more seriously for many reasons, but that's one of the reasons. And so all of these marketplaces are developing in the 70s and 80s. Just because you have enthusiastic editors and the best market paperback gets developed, and all of these other, booksellers, people in the book world are also beginning to understand that there's a marketability that you could angle at books, and that gets more books to more Americans, which means more Americans are reading, which means, hey, maybe we'll be smarter. Didn't really pan out for us all that much, but we tried. And so that just balloons and balloons and balloons because, you have a J.R.R. Tolkien and you have the fantasy boom. You have a Stephen King in the 80s and you have a horror boom. You have an Anne Rice in the 90s and then you have a paranormal romance boom. You have a J.K. Rowling in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you have a children's fantasy boom. You have Suzanne Collins, or Twilight, actually, and then you have the teen paranormal romance boom. You see where I'm going with this, right? You could just keep going all the way up to literally Sarah J. Maas and Travis Baldree. It's become a sort of market frenzy, and the genre question, which I do think is a very, very separate question. Genre is a question that the creator has with themselves almost, and whoever comes to it might feel similarly, might go, oh yeah, this is a science fiction novel of the type that I like to read, and it's an Ursula Le Guin novel or whatever. But another reader might read that and go, it's not really science fiction, it doesn't have much science in it, and I kind of like that about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just depends on what you are as a reader and what you expect as a reader. But these days, because of the heavy market overhang, you can't even get to anything without, like, I tell people all the time with My Hero Academia, I'm like, yeah, I know, it's an anime. But it's superheroes, so you should be watching it if you like superheroes. But they're stuck because they're like, it's anime. I can't watch anime. I don't watch anime. I watch Batman and Superman. And you're like, my
brother in Christ, it's also a cartoon.
It's literally superheroes. Like, are you kidding me? So it's that kind of thing. The market takes over, I think, in a lot of our reader expectations these days before you even can get to the book and process it for yourself, which is depressing, honestly. But it's why I sort of stick with the two as, like, in my own reader expectation, I force the two into different corners because I'm like, the marketplace is over there and it's going to do what it's going to do. And as far as that is concerned, fine, whatever. I don't care. It sells more books or something or whatever. But in the genre slot, I think that's a more interesting place for readers and creators, at least. I'm biased, whatever.